Today, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are hearing more closed-door testimony as part of the impeachment inquiry against President Trump. This comes as the president and other Republicans continue to push for a testimony from the whistleblower who sparked the investigation.
Meanwhile, the law firm representing the whistleblower argues their client's identity should be kept a secret to avoid losing focus on what the investigation is really about. CBS News special correspondent and co-host of Showtime's The Circus, Alex Wagner, spoke with an attorney at that law firm.
Find out about a whistleblower.
Since news broke about a whistleblower complaint deemed credible and urgent by the Inspector General of the intelligence community, President Trump has appeared to focus on unmasking his or her identity.
I think a whistleblower should be protected if the whistleblower's legitimate.
But among the layers of protection for whistleblowers, to a certain degree, is anonymity.
Is the whistleblower afforded federal protection if they are unmasked?
It's not quite clear what would necessarily be legally entitled with respect to this whistleblower.
Who gets to make that decision?
In theory, the president.
Bradley Moss is from the law firm Mark Zaid, which is representing the whistleblower at the root of the impeachment inquiry.
Is it a fool's errand to think that this person is going to stay anonymous?
If this person becomes the story, then the subject of all of this is not about whether or not the president's behavior, his conduct was wrong, impeachable, whatever you want to describe it as. It becomes about the bias of the whistleblowers.
But the president's allies on Capitol Hill see that issue differently.
The American people have a right to know who started this whole thing.
This week, Republican Congressman Jim Jordan, who sits on one of the committees conducting the closed-door impeachment depositions, demanded transparency.
You've called for this person to be unmasked. Do you worry that harm may come to him or her if he or she is unmasked?
Look, we don't want any harm for anyone.
But given the president's rhetoric on this.
No, look, we don't want harm on anyone, but what I do know and what I do worry about is the idea that you have someone who is anonymous, who has no firsthand knowledge,
right,
and who has a bias against the president.
Today, the House is preparing for more high-profile depositions.
You think the information that has come out since this initial whistleblower report was made public has buttressed the whistleblower's complaint or negated it?
I think it is what it is. It's the transcript. And the two most important people on this whole issue are President Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky. They both said there was no quid pro quo.
Alex Wagner joins us now from Capitol Hill. She's a CBS News special correspondent and co-host and executive producer of Circus on Showtime. So, Alex, what do the White House and Republicans have to gain from discovering the whistleblower's identity?
They think that this person, first, it bears mentioning that the Inspector General himself, in sort of following up and investigating the whistleblower's initial complaint, deemed his complaint credible and urgent, right? So there's that, which is sort of the headline from that conclusion. But the Inspector General also understood that the whistleblower had sort of mitigating, complicating affiliations with a 2020 presidential candidate who we now know as Vice President Biden. So House Republicans have seized on that piece of it, that there may be partisan affiliations, as a way to discredit the rest of the whistleblower complaint. Now, I asked Congressman Jim Jordan if he thinks the surrounding information independent of the whistleblower complaint has either buttressed or negated that initial complaint, and he basically had a non-answer for that, which is that it is what it is. This is clearly the strategy on the part of the White House and House Republicans saying, look, we're going to set aside everything that's come since the whistleblower's complaint. We want to focus on the whistleblower himself or herself.
So what's the worst that could happen if this person's identified?
I think if you talk to the law firm that is representing the whistleblower, they are deeply concerned about this person's safety. You have the stakes here. It bears mentioning just how high these stakes are. The President of the United States is facing potential impeachment and removal for office. He has been, in no uncertain terms, excoriating the whistleblower, saying that this person is a spy. He or she may be guilty of treason, which is, of course, punishable by death. So there is a sense inside the whistleblowers community that his identity, her identity, needs to be protected at all costs. And you see, federal protection is up to the discretion of the president, who is, of course, at the center of all of this. So again, real concern from the whistleblower, from the spokespeople for the whistleblower, that his life or her life may be in danger given the climate and the rhetoric that is present today.
You know, I thought it was remarkable, Alex, in your report, Jim Jordan from Ohio essentially saying as fact that the whistleblower in his mind is partisan. There are so many folks, as you know, who work in the United States government who are Democrats or Republicans, who serve presidents who are Democrats or Republicans. And just because somebody happens to be affiliated with a party or is somebody who voted one way in an election or even has a relationship with somebody who's running for higher office doesn't necessarily mean that they have a bias. Jim Jordan used the word bias, and it's not clear from the whistleblower's complaint and from what the Inspector General has said, which he, as you pointed out, deemed the whistleblower's complaint credible. And let's remind everybody, it matched up with the transcript or the so-called transcript that the president released.
Yeah.
So how can he, what are people telling you about that on the Hill?
That's a key point here, right? I mean, some people will say it doesn't matter if the whistleblower was Joe Biden himself. All of the information in that complaint has been borne out by transcript, by the information we've gotten from these testimonies, these depositions. The actual sort of political leanings of the person who put this train, on the track doesn't materially matter here. What we have learned since from the transcript that the White House itself released, from the statements made by the President of the United States, from the statements of his deputies who were tasked with carrying out his orders, that all confirms the nugget of what was in that initial whistleblower complaint. And that's what you hear, especially from the whistleblower's legal defense team. Look, this person isn't the story. The story is the story. And his or her political or partisan affiliations don't fundamentally or materially matter. It is going to be, you guys know this, it is a fraught and a deeply divided landscape here. And that is not looking like it is enough to convince House Republicans that the whistleblower is, in effect, beside the point.
Right. Alex Wagner, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
The Circus airs Sundays on Showtime, a division of CBS. Check your local listings.